from a part of the country where people justified the actions of slavery, the Ku Klux Klan, and lynching. I'm reminded of that dark history as I hear voices today try and justify the actions of the insurrectionists on January 6, 2021. Over the next few weeks, hopefully you will get to know the other members, my colleagues up here, and me. We represent a diversity of communities from all over the United States, rural areas and cities, East Coast, West Coast, and the Heartland. All of us have one thing in common. We swore the same oath. That same oath that all members of Congress take upon taking office and afterwards every 2 years if they are reelected. We swore an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Folks, nearly 20 million people tuned in last night across various broadcast and cable networks to watch the primetime hearing of the January 6th committee that has been investigating the attack on this country on January 6, 2021. It was unmistakable in listening to Chair Bennie Thompson of Mississippi, listening to Congresswoman Liz Cheney from Wyoming, as they methodically laid out exactly what took place on January 6, 2021, who was at fault, and who specifically was the one who was leading this effort, and that was Donald Trump. Congressman Thompson said point blank that this was an attempted coup, an effort to stop the peaceful transition that has always been the hallmark of American democracy since its founding. Folks, again, so we should have another Congressman Thompson. All right, folks, folks, we're going to play some more videos. So the committee also released new videos and evidence from the deadly Capitol assault. And roll that video, please. There was about a 10-minute video that they actually played that was unbelievable, that detailed exactly how crazy that day was. There was testimony from Capitol Hill police officers as well. Roll that.
For themselves. But it's going to happen. Something's going to happen.
Whose streets? Our streets! Whose streets? Our streets!
You hurt you.
We are on your side. Don't make us go against you.
Understand the side. Pick a side.
These are our streets.
$20 a picture.
I hope Mike is going to do the right thing. I hope so. I hope so. Because if Mike Pence does the right thing, we win the election. All Vice President Pence has to do is send it back to the states to recertify, and we become president, and you are the happiest people. Mike Pence is going to have to come through for us, and if he doesn't, that will be a sad day for our country. Because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
Cruiser 50, it does look like we're going to have an ad hoc march stepping off here. There's a crowd surge heading east.
We love Trump! 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 We love Trump!
Mike Pence, I hope you're going to stand up for the good of our Constitution and for the good of our country. And if you're not, I'm going to be very disappointed in you. I will tell you right now.
Get back, ladies! Get back!
Senate patrols to call your station. We just had protesters. Circle, breach the line. We need backup.
Madam Speaker, the Vice President, and the United States Senate.
We're going to give riot warnings as soon as the apparatus is here. We're going to give riot warnings. We're going to try and get compliance, but this is now effectively a riot.
49 hours declaring it a riot.
Cruiser 5 to 50, be advised, Capitol Police 1 advised they're trying to breach and get into the Capitol. 50, I copy.
Hold the line! Hold the line! Hold the line! Hold the line! Hold the line!
42, we're about 5 miles out. We're trying to make our way through all this. We have a breach of the Capitol! Breach of the Capitol to the upper level!
Be advised, they're requesting additional resources on the east side as they've broken into that window and they're trying to kick it in.
Without objection, the Chair declares the House in recess pursuant to Clause 12B of Rule 1.
Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts, not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones which they were asked to previously certify. U.S. demands the truth. Bring out Pence! Bring out Pence! Bring out Pence!
We're gonna get too many fucking people. Look at this fucking bandit swing, man. We're fucked.
We need an area for the housing members. They're all walking over now through the tunnels. We're trying to hold the upper deck. We're trying to hold the upper deck now. We need to hold the doors of the Capitol. I need court support. We lost the line. Anthony, pull back.
All MPD, pull back up to the upper deck. All MPD, pull back to the upper deck. ASAP.
Cruiser 50, be advised that Capitol Police is going to start moving their resources inside. They're going to start the M4 officers first.
Okay, H208 with 4 members. The door's barricaded. There's people flooded the hallways outside. We have no way out.
In fact, officers still remaining on the house floor, on the third floor, to use the subways themselves. It's time to evacuate so we can secure the members on the other side. Copy.
It's up to us people now, the American people.
What are you ready to do?
One more time.
What are you ready to do?
And whatever it takes, I'll lay my life down if it takes.
Absolutely. That's why we showed up today.
Bring her out! Bring her out here! Hey! We're coming in if you don't bring her out! Fuck you, son of a bitch! You back up! You back up!
I have my cell phone back.
Get him up! Officers down! Get him up! Get him up! Hold up! Get him up! Hold up!
Stations under that West Carriage door for backup.
They were peaceful people. These were great people. The crowd was unbelievable. And I mentioned the word love. The love in the air. I've never seen anything like it.
Congresswoman Liz Cheney made it perfectly clear to Republicans that they must own their involvement in this attempted coup.
In our country, we don't swear an oath to an individual or a political party. We take our oath to defend the United States Constitution. And that oath must mean something. Tonight, I say this to my Republican colleagues who are defending the indefensible. There will come a day when Donald Trump is gone, but your dishonor will remain. Tonight and in the weeks to come, you will see evidence of what motivated this violence, including directly from those who participated in this attack. You will see video of them explaining what caused them to do it. You will see their posts on social media. We will show you what they have said in federal court. On this point, there is no room for debate. Those who invaded our Capitol and battled law enforcement for hours were motivated by what President Trump had told them, that the election was stolen and that he was the rightful president. President Trump summoned the mob, assembled the mob, and lit the flame of this attack. You will also hear about plots to commit seditious conspiracy on January 6th, a crime defined in our laws as conspiring to overthrow, put down, or destroy by force the government of the United States, or to oppose by force the authority thereof. Multiple members of 2 groups, the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, have been charged with this crime for their involvement in the events leading up to and on January 6th. Some have pled guilty. The attack on our Capitol was not a spontaneous riot. Intelligence available before January 6th identified plans to, quote, invade the Capitol, occupy the Capitol, and take other steps to halt Congress's count of electoral votes that day. In our hearings to come, we will identify elements of those plans, And we will show specifically how a group of Proud Boys led a mob into the Capitol building on January 6th. Tonight, I'm going to describe for you some of what our committee has learned and highlight initial findings you will see this month in our hearings. As you hear this, all Americans should keep in mind this fact. On the morning of January 6th, President Donald Trump's intention was to remain President of the United States, despite the lawful outcome of the 2020 election and in violation of his constitutional obligation to relinquish power. Over multiple months, Donald Trump oversaw and coordinated a sophisticated 7-part plan to overturn the presidential election and prevent the transfer of presidential power. In our hearings, you will see evidence of each element of this plan.
Today, while speaking about the economy in Los Angeles, President Joe Biden addressed last night's January 6th primetime hearing.
The insurrection on January 6th, one of the darkest chapters in our nation's history. A brutal assault on our democracy, brutal attack on law enforcement, some losing their lives, and we heard about it last night again. It's important to the American people to understand what truly happened and to understand that the same forces that led January 6th remain at work today. It's about our democracy itself. We have to protect our democracy. I know it sounds corny to say it. We're all raised in school. Democracy, every generation has to protect it. I have to admit to you, I never thought that it was going to be this straightforward a challenge before. The rule of law matters in democracies, and we're seeing how the battle for the soul of America has been far from won.
During last night's hearing, they showed text messages from Fox News personalities Sean Hannity and Kayleigh McEnany, the former press secretary for Donald Trump. That didn't sit too well with the folks at Fox. They, of course, didn't cover the hearing. And in fact, today on Outnumbered, with Kayleigh is a co-host with Harris Faulkner and others, they didn't even bring up the hearing. But you call yourselves a so-called news organization and you completely ignore this huge story. By the way, 20 million people watched the hearing last night across the various networks. So the folks at Tennessee Holler put this video together to show you the contrast of the lies being told on Fox News and the reality that we heard last night in the hearing. Watch this.
The dullest, the most boring. There's absolutely nothing new.
Most of the footage we are about to play has never been seen.
It is a made-for-TV smear campaign against President Trump.
The judge evaluated the facts, and he reached the conclusion that President Trump's efforts to pressure Vice President Pence to act illegally by refusing to count electoral votes likely violated 2 federal criminal statutes.
There's no respect for truth. There was no insurrection. There was a riot, a small one, that got a little bit out of hand.
Leaders on Capitol Hill begged the president for help, including Republican leader McCarthy, who was, quote, scared, and called multiple members of President Trump's family after he could not persuade the president himself.
But this was not an insurrection.
And whatever it takes, I'll lay my life down if it takes. Absolutely. That's why we showed up today.
The whole thing is insulting. In fact, it's deranged.
And aware of the rioters' chance to hang Mike Pence, the president responded with this sentiment, quote, maybe our supporters have the right idea. Mike Pence, quote, deserves it.
Why didn't they lift a finger with all the intelligence they had ahead of time to protect the Capitol, to protect every elected official?
Not only did President Trump refuse to tell the mob to leave the Capitol, he placed no call to any element of the United States government to instruct that the Capitol be defended.
You might get an insurrection if you behave like that. Speaking of insurrection.
This peaceful transfer of power has been honored by every American president, except one.
I absolutely love how those folks can just sit there and lie. And what an idiot Jason Whitlock is. I mean, first of all, you know you don't have any credibility if the one person you want to call for analysis about January 6th is Jason Whitlock, truly one of the dumbest people in America. Let's talk about this with Melanie Campbell. She is the president and CEO of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation for Washington, D.C. Also joining us is Kelly Bethea, communications strategist, Michael Imhotep, host of the African History Network, Terrain Bailey, attorney. Glad to have all four of you with us. Melanie, I want to start with you. We laid this whole thing out. First of all, it was an incredible 2-hour hearing. Just your assessment of what you heard and saw last night.
Well, Roland, clearly, first of all, I think that, first of all, I'm going to give you a shout out. Heard you about getting that award. I want to stop before I don't get a chance. Well deserved. But at the end of the day, I think what was most riveting to me was actually the videos where you could really feel the riot, the insurrection. We saw tapes before and we thought we had seen the worst of it, but you could feel that what was happening in a very different way by the fact that the documentarian was able to actually to show that, and they were in the midst of the bowels of that riot. And it just did something to everyone that I spoke to said the same thing today. But I think what Congressman Thompson and did with the hearing last night really just makes it clear. Donald Trump is responsible for trying to overthrow the government of the United States so that he can stay in power. And the question, and also the teasers that let us know that more is coming for those Congress people who, some of them were definitely involved in it as well. We know about the Proud Boys and all of that, but there were also Congress people involved.
Well, what was interesting in the testimony, Terrain, to hear them say that Republican members of Congress sought out pardons for their action on January 6th. They even named Congressman Scott Perry. He tweeted, oh, he never did such a thing. But for them to actually name check him says they've got the proof.
They absolutely have the proof against every congressman who participated in any part of that insurrection, that attempted insurrection that day. What I find amazing is the ongoing attempt to gaslight America. And particularly when you watch, I watched Fox News at the same time that I was watching the hearing, and it was like living in two alternate universes. And they clearly wanted to distract their viewership and say, this is not happening. Everything else that's happening in the world is not real. What we're putting on Fox News right now is real. So they do have these congressmen, they have their staffers, right where they want them. So they have enough evidence to go forward. It's clear that they're establishing that Donald Trump led this insurrection. He encouraged this insurrection with the assistance of many of the GOP leaders in D.C. And it's really sad that this is where we are as a country, listening to this new footage where you can actually hear the Capitol Police and their commentary. And as they were observing it and experiencing it, it was heart-wrenching for them to understand that they knew they were outnumbered, but they still stood there and they did their jobs. It was amazing. Those are true American heroes.
Kelly, Harry Dunn was one of the officers who has consistently spoken out. And here's what he had to say last night.
Today just confirmed my opinions and my suspicions about what happened. It's no longer my opinion to say that Donald Trump did not help us. It's no longer my opinion that is in fact. I didn't know that Mike Pence was emphatically pleading, stop it. I didn't know that, so that just makes it even more disheartening that help didn't come, because you got the number 2 powerful person in the world saying stop it, and number 1 is not. So that's just a little disheartening. So his job is to protect this country and to protect us, and he did it.
And I just, this alternate reality Terrain talked about, Kelly, is just amazing when these so-called people who always scream back the blue, where were y'all defending the cops on January 6th? We see what's going on here, Kelly. They know what he was doing, and they know that they were also complicit in this attempted coup.
First and foremost, I just have to give a shout to Harry Dunn. He is actually a really good friend of mine. And when the insurrection happened, as someone who knew him as a friend, to know that he was in such danger that day scared me and our mutual friends endlessly. And every time we see that footage, all of us just get so angry on behalf of someone who is such a light to this world, both at his job and in his personal life. So I just wanted to say that on the record. Like, he's an amazing human being across the board. But that said, the vitriol that he has received, he and other police officers who have been speaking out at these hearings, the vitriol and the hatred that they have received, not just from the Republican Party, but, you know, dare I say, some people in their own ranks who just do not align themselves with just how grave and dangerous that day was. They are heroes in more ways than one. And the fact that they are going through this, while commendable and heroic, it makes me so angry. The fact that even their brothers and sisters in blue on both ends of the aisle aren't necessarily as supportive as they could be. And I hope that not only the hearings that we are going to be seeing for the next couple weeks, from my understanding, they're going to be telling the truth, right? But I'm just glad that it's not just telling the truth to the world, but it's on the congressional record that what they went through was literally fighting treason. They were literally fighting domestic terrorists that day. So again, shout out to them. Shout out to everybody who was on the front lines that day. And I just pray that everything that happens from here on out is just a reflection of not only how good they are, but how corrupt and inept those who were there that day on the other side of history were.
Michael, Trump's Secretary General Bill Barr testified before the committee, and they actually opened up the hearing with this comment from him that pretty much laid the groundwork for everything we heard over the next 2 hours.
No, just what I've been through. I had 3 discussions with the president that I can recall. One was on November 23rd, one was on December 1st, and one was on December 14th. And I've been through sort of the give and take of those discussions. And in that context, I made it clear I did not agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was bullshit. And you know, I didn't want to be a part of it, and that's one of the reasons that went into me deciding to leave when I did. I observed, I think it was on December 1st, that, you know, how can you can't live in a world where the incumbent administration stays in power based on its view, unsupported by specific evidence, that there was fraud in the election.
I mean, Michael, by putting that out there first, I mean, this is the guy who did everything to protect Donald Trump with the Mueller report. And this was important just to methodically lay the facts out.
Exactly. And keep in mind, Attorney General William Barr also resigned about a month before Trump left office as well. Okay, and that was one of the reasons why, because he disagreed with Trump. You know, I watched the whole thing yesterday, Roland. I watched the hour of the preview on MSNBC. I watched the whole hearing. Then I watched the analysis afterwards. Yesterday was fantastic. Documentarian Nick Quested did a fantastic job. I've been reading through articles about this, and I knew that this was the type of information that was coming, because I've been following the investigations they've been doing. There's been over 1,000 people they've interviewed. They reviewed over 140,000 documents. So I wasn't pressing the committee. I knew this stuff was coming. Now, this coming Monday, they're going to break down, they're going to go through and systematically dissect the big lie. That's what's coming this Monday. So this, this was fantastic. A lot of new evidence came out, footage we had not seen before, people around Trump who told him, no, you lost, you're lying, etc. Attorney General William Barr, we saw Ivanka Trump, and we saw that she believed William Barr. We saw, Scott Perry pursuing a pardon, but also they're inviting Scott Perry to come testify. They say, well, if you disagree with our findings, you can come testify under oath. And Chairman Bennie Thompson was interviewed by Nicole Wallace today on Deadline White House. And she asked him, would you let President Trump come, former President Trump come? He said, yeah, if he comes under oath, testifies, that he can. But if he thinks he's going to perjure himself, he better think again. So this is fantastic. I love it. Seriously, I love it. And this reminds me, lastly, of the July 1863 New York City draft riot during the Civil War, where working class white men retaliated against the federal government because they were being drafted to fight in the Civil War. Many of them did not have the $300 to avoid being drafted. And they said, wait a second, you said the Civil War was about keeping the Union together. This was after the Emancipation Proclamation. They said, now you're talking about freeing the slaves. They retaliated and they attacked federal buildings. There were about 119 people killed, and they also attacked African Americans as well. This was a bloody riot, one of the worst riots in the history of this country. This is before, of course, Tulsa Massacre, 1921. This is the New York City draft riot, 1863, during the Civil War.
Melanie, to sit here and listen to people who say, oh my God, the hearings were boring and they could have made it more compelling. I'm sorry, everything literally is not a damn television show or a movie. I mean, what we're talking about here is, as Congressman Thompson said, this was an attempted coup. And so I'm sorry we can't have a Michael Mann movie or a F. Gary Gray movie. This can't be Fast and Furious 9, 10, or 11. This is real stuff. And the fact that 20 million people saw this, and you can have others who are saying that, well, we pretty much knew all this sort of stuff. No, I think there were people last night who had to see the gravity of what took place. And I think with these hearings coming up, and I think every one of them should be in prime time. They should, if the television networks, we don't want them in prime time, damn your prime time shows. Put this in prime time, because American people need to sit at home and listen to this so they understand the evil that exists in the Republican Party, because they continue to defend this big lie.
Well, I tell you, last night my brother who votes, but he doesn't like to get that engaged on some of these things. Me and my brother sat here the entire 2 hours, and he was talking about it when I came home today. It's like people are paying, people who watched paid attention. And I think next week, and I agree with you, they need to keep it on prime time, no matter what Fox News, because there's certain people who go, no matter what happens, those aren't the people that's going to ever own it, because they have a different mindset about what it's about in the first place, right? Anything's going to keep white people on the top of the heap. And so Donald Trump fits that bill. So it doesn't matter what happens. But the American people have to know, and those who say they support the blue, really, this is how you support the blue, and then you're gonna elect Congress people. You have an opportunity to find out where people stood on whether or not they believe in this democracy that you all say you love so much, when you're flying the flag and taking people out like Kaepernick because he took a knee. So how patriotic are you really when you say you love this country? Because if you love this country, then what happened on January 6th, then you're going to show it also at the ballot box and who you decide you want to bring back to Congress in 2023.
And the thing here, Terrain, again, what we heard were folks who were breaking the law. We heard them lay out perjury. We heard some serious charges. And the thing that I keep reminding people, that the individuals in the Republican Party who were involved in this, they are still in office. If they win the House in November, they're now in power. And so that's why also these hearings are important, because we need to know exactly who the evil perpetrators are.
You're absolutely correct. If the Republicans take the House in the fall, then they are in office. And I believe that that's the goal of these hearings, is to inform the electorate of what really happened. But Roland, the reality of it is there are just people in this country who choose not to see what is in their face. They choose to believe in an America that existed long before we were born. They want to go back to making America great again. Well, it hasn't been great for us as African Americans, as people of color, very long, even if it is at all now. And they want to go back there, and they support anyone who's willing to let them hold their position that America was previously great in the way it is now. They believe that Black people and people of color are taking over. But yes, we need to be really concerned that we potentially have criminals who are going to be leading our country and leading our House of Representatives. We need to be gravely concerned about that. And I believe that what the House is trying to do now is to set it up so that before the elections, people can make an informed decision, that some of these people can be disqualified for running. But the Republicans will do anything to regain their position in the House and to stay in power. And that's the sad reality.
Kelly, again, as I just sat there and I listened and saw the video and heard the testimony, all I could think about were the constant lies that we kept hearing coming from the White House. And as they laid out what they're going to, unfold in the next hearings, it's going to make it perfectly plain. And I tweeted this, and I said, we should never forget that when the Ari Fleischers of the world wrote a column expressing why he supported Donald Trump in 2020, when Governor Chris Christie, when Jack Nicklaus, when Geraldo Rivera, when James Baker, when all these Republicans stood by this man, they were supporting this. This is the same man before January 6th and after January 6th. And the Republican Party is in lockstep with him. And so this, to me, these hearings, it is drawing a line. And it's going to expose anybody to say, if you still stand with this man, you are absolutely on the side of evil and not on America. You are not a patriot. It is not about principle. You don't have morals or values. If anybody after this stands with Donald Trump or any Republican who defends this crap, then we should make sure none of them ever see the light of day when it comes to public office.
I couldn't agree with you more. This hearing for me is really just a revelation, so to speak. It is literally shedding light on the shadows that we knew existed for the 4 years that Trump was in office. And the insurrection was really just the icing on the crappy cake of all the corruption and all of the cronyism and all of the ineptitude that was the Trump administration. What I appreciate the most about these hearings is the fact that, like you said, everything's laid out on the table now, and you will not have a choice but to be on one side of history or the other. You're either going to align yourself with domestic terrorists or you're not. You're either going to align yourself with the cult leader or you're not. And right now, what we're seeing in the footage of people like Bill Barr and the others that we saw last night, it's, yeah, I'm following a cult leader, but here's why. And they're trying to mitigate or really just straddle that line. We cannot afford any more line straddlers now. The Republican Party is already in the realm of cult-like mentality. So again, like, either you're going to align yourself with this or you're not. And what the hearing is doing is showing you exactly who's on the right side of history. Like, you are seeing who in the Trump administration and others are going to be considered domestic terrorists and who are actually going to be considered patriots. Now, the American people can do with that what they will. Hopefully they open their eyes to the crap that we've been going through, but at least now it's on the record. At least now it will be nothing but willful ignorance from here on out. You cannot say that you didn't know, because it's been in your face now this entire time.
And that's it, Michael. I mean, there are no more excuses. And this is where we get to say, who you with? Who you with? Because if you continue, when the Jim Jordans of the world and the Kevin McCarthy's keep saying, oh, this committee, they're illegal. See, that's all hype. No. You now have to explain away, Kevin McCarthy, the video of your staff scurrying out of the office as they were coming. So you call the committee illegal, yet your staff was scared for their lives on that same day. In fact, if I'm with his staff, I could not work for that man after what he has been doing, trying to discredit this hearing. I mean, sorry, this committee.
Well, Kevin McCarthy was calling the White House trying to get Trump to call off his goons, trying to get Trump to call off his domestic terrorists. This is how spineless these Republicans are. These are traitors. This is how spineless these people are. And this is it. This is an example of how elections have consequences, because the reason why Bennie Thompson is chairman of that committee is because people went out and voted, especially African Americans, and Democrats have control of the House. Okay. Now, also, when you talk about these traitorous Republicans, we have to keep in mind, when we look at how they vote, they consistently vote against our own interests. And just a couple of weeks ago, all the Republicans, except for one, Adam Kinzinger, all of them voted against the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act in the House of Representatives. I wonder why. Because if the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act passes and 47 Republicans in the Senate voted against it as well, that was going to specifically target domestic terrorists, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists, and they know their asses would be busted. This is why every last one of those traitors, keep in mind, 147 of those traitors voted not to certify the 2020 presidential elections. 139 in the House, and I think it was 8 in the Senate. All those traitors have to be dealt with. All of them have to be voted out of office, and then hopefully they'll be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And, treason is defined by Article 3, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution, and we know what the penalty for treason is also.
Melanie, final comment on this topic here. There were a number of conservatives, Republicans, who tried to, yesterday and today, it's about inflation. And yes, the report came out showing what inflation is, saying that's the only thing people are going to be focused on in November. I disagree. I disagree. I think people are going to be voting on this issue. I think they're definitely going to be voting on the issue of guns. They're going to be voting on the issue of Roe v. Wade, depending upon what the Supreme Court decision is. And so the economy certainly is a critical issue. But I think what this hearing, when all these hearings have run its course, it is going to be damning for the entire Republican Party.
I agree, Roland. I think what's going to be important for us over this summer is to keep our people focused and getting all that information and connecting the dots, that we do have the power to change this. With all of the things that are coming at us, we still have the power, and that we cannot relinquish it. And we have to challenge our friends in the progressive movement to put resources in place now. They're gonna put that weight on us to try to save America once again. Take care and get busy now. You cannot turn this around in 60 days. Come September, talking about, it's time, oh my God, we're in trouble. No, now is the time so people can connect those dots. And I'm with you and everyone on this show. The bottom line is that the same people who don't want voting rights, the same people who don't want women to have a right to control our own bodies, same people who were trying to make sure that we can't even talk about Black history in the schools, are the same people who are okay with what happened on January the 6th and more. And those same people who won't pass common sense gun safety in this country. Because at the end of the day, it's all tied back to white nationalism, and that the browning of America, the blackening of America, has had some folks will do anything, including destroying this democracy, in order for them to stay in quote unquote control.
Well, again, I look forward to these hearings, and we certainly hope people continue to pay attention, because democracy is certainly at stake. Melanie Campbell, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?